The conspicuous absence. In the Grand Assembly Hall of Celestial Station Alpha, the most magnificent structure in known space, representatives from 36 spacefaring civilizations gathered for the quarterly Galactic Conclave. The massive chamber was a marvel of architecture, designed to accommodate beings of all biologies, atmospheres, and gravitational preferences. Some delegates floated in specialized liquid tanks, others hovered in anti-gravity fields, while many sat in chairs built to support their unique anatomies. High Chancellor Vexon of the Ardani Confederation, the eldest and most respected diplomat in the galaxy, called the 287th conclave to order. His 6 eyes swept across the chamber, pausing momentarily on the conspicuously empty seat at the far end of the crescent-shaped table. Before we address today's agenda, Vexon's voice resonated through universal translators. I must once again note the absence of Earth's representative. It has been 3 standard cycles since we extended formal invitation to the humans, yet their designated chair remains empty. This is unprecedented in our 12,000 years of conclave history. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The empty chair had become the most talked-about subject in diplomatic circles across the galaxy. Perhaps they are simply not ready for galactic governance, suggested Ambassador Krill of the Zentari Empire, his metallic skin gleaming under the chamber's lights. Their civilization only achieved faster-than-light travel a mere century ago. The invitation may have been premature, or perhaps, countered Representative Mox of the Ferellian Consortium, her crystalline form scattering light across the room. They are arrogant enough to believe they can reject our invitation without consequence. High Chancellor Vexon raised a limb for silence. Whatever their reasons, the Council's decision stands. Earth's seat remains open for when they choose to claim it. Now, let us proceed with Chancellor, interrupted Intelligence Director Zarn, a rarely speaking member from the Thorian Collective. I believe we should address the human situation more directly. Their absence from this chamber is puzzling, especially considering their presence elsewhere on this station. The assembly fell silent. Zarn's interruption was itself unusual. The Thorians were known for their reserve and careful timing. Explain yourself, Director, Vexon commanded. Zarn's multifaceted eyes reflected the light as he stood. Our intelligence section has identified 73 humans currently working throughout Celestial Station Alpha. They occupy positions in virtually every department: engineering, medical, research, translation, maintenance, even security. They arrived gradually over the past 5 years, well before the formal invitation was extended to Earth. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. Representatives turned to each other in confusion and alarm. "Are you suggesting infiltration?" asked Krill, his voice edged with accusation. "Not precisely," Zarn replied. Each human was properly credentialed through our standard hiring protocols. They applied individually or in small groups, submitted the required documentation, and passed security clearances. They are, by all measures, legitimate employees of the station. "This is outrageous," exclaimed Delegate Huran of the Melkar dynasty, his feathers bristling. "While we debate whether to resign their invitation due to non-response, they secretly placed their people throughout our headquarters." Chancellor Vexon remained unnervingly calm. "Director Zarn, have these humans engaged in any suspicious activities? Accessed restricted information? Compromised security?" "No, Chancellor," Zarn admitted. "In fact, they are universally rated as exceptional workers. Efficient, thorough, adaptable. Several department heads have specifically requested more human employees." "Then what exactly concerns you, Director?" asked Mox. "The pattern," Zarn explained, activating a holographic display showing the station's cross-section. Red dots appeared throughout the schematic, representing human locations. They've positioned themselves at key junctures throughout the station's infrastructure. Not in command positions, but in roles that provide unique observation opportunities. I believe they are conducting a systematic assessment of our operations, technologies, and diplomacy. For what purpose? Someone called out. Information gathering. Zarn replied simply. They're learning everything about us before committing to join us. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices, some outrage, others intrigued. Chancellor Vexen spent several minutes restoring order before addressing Zarn again. What course of action do you recommend, Director? I suggest we confront one of them directly, Zarn said. Perhaps the most senior human on station. I've identified Dr. Maya Chen, who has worked in xenobiological research for nearly 5 standard years. Chancellor Vexen considered this, then nodded. Proceed, but with diplomacy. This may be nothing more than cultural misunderstanding. Later that day, Director Zarn found Dr. Chen in the Advanced Research Wing. She was analyzing tissue samples from a recently discovered life form when he approached. At first glance, Maya Chen seemed unremarkable for a human. Average height, dark hair tied back practically, focused expression as she worked. Yet something in her posture suggested alertness beyond what her task required. Dr. Chen, Zarn announced his presence. I am Intelligence Director Zarn. I would appreciate a moment of your time. She looked up, showing neither surprise nor concern. Director Zarn, it's an honor. I've read your published work on multispecies communication patterns. Brilliant analysis. She gestured to an empty seat. How can I help you? Zarn sat, noting her composure. Most beings showed at least mild anxiety when approached by intelligence officials. I'm curious about Earth's unusual approach to conclave membership. Your government received our invitation 3 cycles ago, yet your representative's seat remains empty. Ah, she smiled. The empty chair question. I was wondering when someone would ask me directly. You were expecting to be questioned. Eventually. Though I'm surprised it took this long. She removed her protective gloves and sat across from him. Director, I'm a xenobiologist, not a diplomat. I can't speak officially for Earth's government. Yet you might offer insight as to why humans choose to work throughout this station while refusing formal representation. Dr. Chen considered her response carefully. Humans have learned from our own history that understanding precedes commitment. Before joining any alliance, we prefer to learn its true nature, not just its stated principles, but how it actually functions. You could learn this through official diplomatic channels, Zarn countered. Could we? Chen raised an eyebrow. Official channels present official narratives. We wanted to understand the conclave as it exists day to day, not just during formal sessions. Zarn leaned forward. Some might call this espionage. Others might call it due diligence, she replied without hesitation. Every human here passed your security protocols. We've broken no rules, accessed no restricted data. We've simply observed. And what have you observed, Dr. Chen? She smiled again. That's classified, I'm afraid. But I can tell you that Earth's representative will take their seat when we've completed our assessment. And when might that be? Before she could answer, both their communication devices activated simultaneously. The station-wide emergency alert system engaged, its distinctive tone echoing through the corridors. Chen checked her device and frowned. It seems we have a more immediate concern, Director. There's been an incident at the Cygnus Proxima Transit Hub. Massive space-time distortion detected, multiple ships lost. Zarn received the same alert but was puzzled by her immediate understanding of its severity. How did you? I should return to my lab, Chen interrupted, standing. We've been monitoring unusual quantum fluctuations in that sector for weeks. This confirmation is troubling. You knew this was coming? Zarn asked, suspicion rising. Not specifically, she replied, gathering her equipment. But we've detected patterns suggesting instability. If I'm right about the cause, the entire Cygnus transit corridor could collapse within days. Zarn stared at her. That route connects 17 systems to the conclave core worlds. Millions would be stranded, supply chains severed. Yes, Chen said gravely. And conventional methods won't stabilize it. You should prepare for an emergency conclave session. She paused at the doorway. It appears Earth's representative might be taking their seats sooner than anticipated. As the emergency alerts continued to sound, Zarn watched her hurry down the corridor, communicating rapidly with other humans on her device. For the first time in his long career, the intelligence director felt he might have underestimated a species. The empty chair in the conclave chamber suddenly seemed less like an insult and more like a calculated strategy, one whose purpose was about to be revealed. The game-changing revelation. The emergency conclave convened within 2 hours of the initial alert. The usual decorum had been abandoned as representatives hurried to their positions, many still receiving updates through their communication devices. The chamber's main display showed real-time footage of the disaster. A swirling vortex of distorted space-time had appeared at the Cygnus Proxima transit hub, already consuming 3 cargo vessels and damaging 7 others. The distortion is expanding at an exponential rate, Science Minister Loxel explained, her tentacles moving anxiously over the control panel. At current progression, the entire corridor will become impassable within 30 standard hours. Complete collapse may follow. Can we establish alternative routes? Asked Representative Mox. The nearest safe passage would add 17 days to the journey, Loxel replied. Many colonies cannot sustain themselves that long without supplies. What about containment measures? Chancellor Vexon pressed. The gravity well generators at Outpost Theta 9 would be like throwing pebbles at a tsunami, interrupted a new voice from the entrance. All eyes turned to see a human woman in formal diplomatic attire striding confidently into the chamber. She moved directly to Earth's long empty chair and placed her hand on the biometric scanner, which immediately recognized her authority. Ambassador Ileana Reyes, representing Earth, she announced as the chair's status indicators changed from vacant to occupied. I apologize for our delayed participation, but it seems I've arrived at a critical moment. Chancellor Vexon recovered quickly from his surprise. Ambassador Reyes, while we welcome Earth's belated acceptance of our invitation, this emergency session concerns a crisis requiring immediate technical expertise. Which is precisely why I'm here. Reyes cut in, activating a data terminal from her position. The space-time anomaly at Cygnus Proxima is not a natural phenomenon. It's the result of quantum resonance cascade failure in the underlying fabric of the transit corridor. Science Minister Loxel moved closer, her eyes widening. That's impossible. The transit corridors are naturally occurring phenomena. They cannot fail, as you suggest. Natural. Reyes raised an eyebrow. The Cygnus network was artificially created approximately 20,000 years ago by a civilization predating the conclave. They've been stable until now because their underlying quantum matrix remained intact. But recent increased traffic, and particularly the use of tachyon-based communication systems, have stressed the original infrastructure beyond its design parameters. The chamber fell silent as representatives processed this information. How could you possibly know this? Demanded Krill of the Zentari. Even our most advanced research teams have never detected evidence of artificial creation in the transit networks. Ambassador Reyes smiled. Because humans look at things differently. While your civilizations have used the transit corridors for millennia, taking their existence for granted, we approached them as newcomers, questioning what others assumed. Our research teams identified subtle patterns in the quantum substrate 3 years ago. We've been studying them ever since. She gestured, and the main display changed to show complex mathematical models. Earth has developed technology specifically designed to reinforce and eventually repair the quantum matrix. We've been testing small-scale applications at minor junctions for months. The results have been promising. You've been experimenting with crucial galactic infrastructure without authorization. Huron exclaimed, feathers fully extended in alarm. On the contrary, Reyes replied calmly. Every test was conducted within Earth's sovereign space or in accordance with research permits granted by station authorities. We simply didn't advertise the true nature of our work. Director Zarn suddenly understood. The human scientists throughout the station, they weren't just observing our politics. They were gathering data for this research. Among other things, Rise acknowledged. Dr. Chen's xenobiology work provided crucial insights into how different species technologies interact with the quantum substrate. Engineers in maintenance analyzed the station's power distribution to help refine our stabilization techniques. Humans in the translation departments studied how different species conceptualize space-time, which proved invaluable in creating the universal model. Chancellor Vexen leaned forward. Ambassador, if your people truly possess technology that can address this crisis, we welcome your assistance. But this revelation raises serious questions about Earth's approach to galactic membership. Questions that can wait. Rise replied firmly. We have 26 hours before the Cygnus junction collapses completely. I have 4 specialized vessels standing by with stabilization equipment. They need immediate clearance to access the affected area. The Chancellor hesitated only briefly before nodding. Granted. Coordinate with Fleet Command. As Reyes transmitted authorization codes to the waiting Earth vessels, representatives whispered among themselves. The power dynamics in the chamber had shifted palpably. A newcomer civilization had just demonstrated knowledge and capability that the Conclave's oldest members lacked. Over the next 18 hours, the Conclave remained in session as Earth's ships deployed their technology at the collapsing junction. The stabilization process was tense, with several moments where failure seemed imminent. But gradually, the violent distortion began to recede. After 22 hours of continuous effort, the anomaly was contained. Damage to the quantum matrix remained, but the immediate crisis had passed. When Ambassador Reyes returned to the chamber after coordinating the operation, she received something unprecedented: applause from the assembled representatives. Even her most vocal critics acknowledged the achievement. The Conclave extends its formal gratitude to Earth for this intervention, Chancellor Vexen announced. You have saved countless lives and preserved critical infrastructure. However, his tone shifted slightly. Your methods raise concerns. Your government's decision to study us while withholding your representative seems problematic. Reyes took her seat, Earth's seat, with composed confidence. Chancellor, the Conclave has existed for 12,000 years. Earth has been spacefaring for barely 2 centuries. When you invited us to join, we needed to understand what we were joining. Through covert observation, Krill challenged. Through careful study, Reyes corrected. Every human on this station was transparent about their identity and credentials. We simply recognized that formal diplomatic channels reveal only what you wish to show. To truly understand the Conclave, we needed to experience it as participants in its daily operation, not just as observers in this chamber. And what have you learned that justified such unusual methods? Asked Mox. That the Conclave's founding principles of equality and shared governance have drifted over millennia. That 3 founding species effectively control all significant decisions. That 11 member worlds have resigned from the Conclave over the past 2,000 years under circumstances that remain classified at the highest levels. An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. We also learned, Rice continued, that the Conclave possesses remarkable scientific and cultural achievements, genuinely values diverse perspectives, and has maintained relative peace across thousands of worlds for millennia. We learned your strengths and your weaknesses, just as you should have learned ours before extending an invitation. Chancellor Vexen studied her with new respect, and having learned these things, Earth has decided to join us after all. With conditions, Rise replied. Earth will take its place in the Conclave, but we propose reforms to governance structure, technology sharing, and scientific cooperation. Particularly, we believe our approach to the transit network requires a joint task force immediately. You presume much for a newcomer civilization, growled Huron. We offer much as well, Rice countered. Our understanding of the transit network alone justifies our proposals. But beyond that, we bring perspective. Your civilizations have coexisted so long that you no longer question patterns established millennia ago. Humanity's greatest strength may be our tendency to ask questions others have stopped asking. Over the next several days, as Earth's technology continued to stabilize the damaged transit junction, the conclave debated Ambassador Reyes' proposals. Many representatives resisted at first, uncomfortable with a new species suggesting fundamental changes to ancient institutions. But the demonstration of Earth's unique capabilities had shifted the conversation irrevocably. In private, Chancellor Vexen met with Director Zarn to discuss the changing dynamics. "They planned this all along," Zarn observed. "The empty chair was never about reluctance to join. It was a strategic delay while they positioned themselves for maximum leverage. A gambit worthy of the ancient strategos themselves," Vexen acknowledged. "They risked offending the entire conclave, but gained invaluable insight and demonstrated their value precisely when we needed it most. Should we be concerned about their broader intentions?" Vexen considered this carefully. "I believe not. Had they wished to exploit the transit network vulnerability, they could have done so without warning us. Instead, they chose to reveal both the danger and the solution." He gazed out at the stars. "Perhaps the conclave has grown complacent over millennia. Perhaps we needed this disruption." One standard week after the crisis, the conclave voted to accept Earth's conditions for membership. Ambassador Reyes formally took her oath, and Earth's once empty chair became a symbol of a new era in galactic governance. As news spread throughout known space, civilizations far and wide contemplated the implications of humanity's unusual entrance onto the galactic stage. The empty chair that had puzzled the galaxy's greatest minds for 3 years had never truly been empty. It had been a statement, a declaration that humanity would join the community of worlds on its own terms, not as a junior partner grateful for admission, but as an equal with unique contributions to offer. The galaxy would never be the same again.